All right, so let's talk about alternative thinking, right? I'm doing this video because I get a lot, I get a lot of questions. No, I don't. I get a lot of people when they come to as clients, and their dream scenarios often look very similar. It's starting to get boring, right? So I'm going to put out there some thoughts. This is for existing clients, just anyone, to sort of consider as well as you move forward. The typical dream life that I get that comes through looks like this. Worst case scenario, age 60 retirement, 80K per annum, house $700,000, worst case scenario. Ideal retirement, age 50, 100K, 120,000 per annum. Ideal house, 1.2 mil. Dream home, 1.5 to 2 mil. And dream retirement, age 45, 120K per annum. Luxuries, 10K per annum travel, 10K per annum spending, dining out, clothes, that kind of stuff. And then go up the ladder a bit further, cars, maybe a boat, holiday home, right? All the same shit. Always the same shit. What do you want for your kids? All right, well, I want to be able to give them a house deposit at age 21 to 25, right? Pay for their education, buy their new first car, all that stuff. That's normal, and that's okay. That's what you want. But I want to make sure that we're not saying that shit just because it's what is expected of us, right? I want to make sure that we're doing what we want to do. So here's an alternative. What do you want to do? I want to build a business that I can do from anywhere in the world, and I can just travel forever. I can just travel all around the world while getting paid. Brilliant. Another alternative. I want to build an income or passive portfolio that allows me to take 3 to 6 months off a year to just live the life I want to live. Little shit like that, like little different alternative thinking, right? Where everyone wants the home and the 50-year-old retirement. Start thinking differently. Can we build the business you want so you can do whatever you want every day of the year? Can we build a portfolio that, we don't need a home, right? Because one of the biggest expenses in wealth building is a home, right? You're looking at 30 to 40 grand a year in mortgage repayments for an average home for the next 20 years. $100, it's a lot of money. Right? We're talking of at least 30 years, right? We're talking at least 1.2 mil gone. That same amount of money, right? So if I'm to do the mathematics for you, let's say the average person, the average household has 120 grand a year coming in net, right? 40% of that will be 40% of that will go towards bills. Yeah. So times 40%. So 50 grand a year towards bills, just surviving. That's pretty normal for a couple. And then 20% of that towards luxuries, so called 25 grand a year. That's 10,000 in luxuries or 12,000 in luxuries, 12,000 in travel if you want. And then that'll give us roughly 50 grand a year to invest, right? Now, let's be conservative here and say that it's actually going to cost us, we need to take 20 grand out of that and put it into bills because it's more like, 70 grand a year for that couple, and we can only invest 30. So let's do it on 30 grand a year, which 2,500 a month. That's a pretty standard amount of savings capacity if you don't have a mortgage. Yeah. And let's say in this scenario, we're not going to need to rent either or anything like that, right? Well, we can rent, whatever, it doesn't matter. But let's say, so we've got $30,000 a year to invest. And we'll start with zero. 30,000 per annum, it's given an 8% return. Now we will need, let's say for the rest of our life, we need 60 grand a year, right? Because we don't have a mortgage. We're just traveling around the globe and we're just living. So there's no rent, there's nothing like that. None of those insurances. We don't need anything back home. We can just, let's just say we can travel the globe. So we need 60,000 per year. That means we're going to need about a mil, right? 1 to 1.2 million. So let's see how long. We could do that in 15 years. Right? So if you're 20 and you sit down and you think, or you're 20, 25, and you think, oh, you know, I want to retire and own a home by age 40, it's going to cost you a lot of money, right? It's going to cost you, really, it's probably going to cost you 80 grand a year. But for 30 grand a year, if that's something you want to do, where you want to go travel the world and live comfortably, you could do that with 30 grand a year. From 20 to 35, from 25 to 40, you could save that portfolio while still traveling along the way, you know? You could still travel every year with 10K per annum. That's what we've allowed in the luxuries. And then we could invest that extra across there. If you wanted to get real sexy and you want to up that to 50 grand per year, you could do it in 10 years, right? And if you had some savings already, let's say you had 50 grand now, let's say you had 25 grand now. Yeah, you could do it in about 8 years, right? So that's what it sort of looks like, you know what I mean? By the age of 28, you could be cruising. You could be cruising around the globe. So just start using alternative thinking when thinking about your life, you know? It doesn't always have to be the typical buy a home, retire at 50, rah. It doesn't have to be that. That's what society tells us. Now, you want to do that, that's fine. We can do that. We do that every day. But if you want to do something a bit sexier, we can do that too, right? We can do that too. Maybe we're just scared of that shit, but we're not. We're keen to do it with you. It's not what I want to do. I like rather travel every year, have a location in Australia and be able to come back and see my family. But if that's not you, if yours is something a bit bigger, even if it's just you want to travel around Australia, get a car or a camper van and just travel around Australia. You don't need to pay rent or mortgage or stuff like that there either, right? So think a bit differently. Think a bit alternatively with your goals and what you're doing in your life so that you can plan accordingly, because it doesn't always have to be the same. If you want help with that, reach out. We can definitely do that. Otherwise, just take it into consideration.